So in this video, I'm going to teach you how to sound like Clairo on FL Studio with a cowboy hat. You're probably wondering, Rubio, why do you have a cowboy hat on? Like, what? Can you just stop? And to that, I say my hair is just absolutely just trash. But anyway, if you're new to this channel and you want a place where you can get a bunch of tutorials on FL Studio, GarageBand, you name it, consider subscribing and hitting the bell for more videos like this. It's free and you can change your mind whenever you want. Anyway, let's get started. Right, so we're over here in the lab. And as you can see, I have basically everything set up. What I actually did for this video was I kind of remade one of my own songs, Cool Kids, which was, to be honest, semi-inspired by Clairo and like that sort of like bedroom pop type music. If you want to listen to it, it's the music playing in the background right now. Consider clicking the first link in the description. But I basically turned it into like old school like Clairo type music. Even though it sounded pretty Clairo inspired already, like I feel like this sounds way more up to that style. And the main thing I want you guys to focus on is that Clairo makes very simple music, especially her old stuff, which is what I'm going to be focusing on because that seems to be like the more popular stuff in her fandom. But Clairo is known for like just bare essentials type stuff. I mean, a lot of her stuff literally is made like with GarageBand and that sort of thing. So that's why for the beat, which used to be a lot more like heavily layered with like guitars and stuff like that, the only thing I added were 80s type drums, an piano from literally like probably the shittiest place I can find, FL keys, and like this free bass module. So like first I had like a very simple kick snare pattern, then you add the piano. And every chord here is playing like major 7th or just 7th chords, which is very common in her music. So that's one thing, like especially if you're like trying to make beats similar to Clairo, you have to have those major 7th chords. And how do you do that? It's basically a normal chord. So for instance, this is a D major, and you add a extra chord over here 4 steps up, or that's for major 7. If you want a 7th chord, it's only 3 steps up. But it basically gives the same effect. Like for instance, I'm doing D major 7 for this, but if you wanted it to be D7, it would sound like this. I think that the C sharp, the elevated C sharp, makes it sound much more elevated, if that makes any sense. It's meant to be very chill and has a bit of like a psychedelic tinge to it to a degree. Then I have a bass playing like a very basic just bass line. And altogether, it sounds like this. I would even honestly recommend, considering she adds a lot of electric guitar, to add like electric guitar. And how do you do that if you don't have one? Well, it's actually very simple. All you'd want to do is you'd have to find a free guitar VST, something like this, and get like the steel one. I'm going to use literally the same chords as the piano. So I would go here to piano roll, and we're just gonna isolate this. Now, you're probably thinking it sounds weird because it doesn't sound like you're strumming a guitar. And that's why you go over here to this wrench or whatever, and you'd go to strum, or you can go to Alt S. And you can play around with this. So for instance, I have it like this. You can even mess with the velocity, which makes it sound much more realistic. There's a lot of features here, like you can chop chords, alternate direction, which is basically like if you're strumming like this, then the next one's gonna be strumming like this. I don't even think you can see my hand. Like this and like this, basically. I look like an idiot, but anyway. And I'm just gonna click accept. Now it sounds like this. And it sounds much better, I think. You can tweak it even more, to be honest, but I'm just gonna like rudimentary example. And what you would do is you would put this in another channel, and you would need a second free plugin, which is going to be the amplifier to make it sound like an actual thing. So I have a couple. I have Blue Cat's free amp. The one I use the most is 𝐕𝐸, and I usually pick. It really depends. Sometimes Picky Jazz. Picky Jazz. I use Picky Jazz. Oh. And then you would add some reverb. and then adding everything else, it would sound like this. In my opinion, it doesn't sound as good because in the original song, the E piano was playing like its own little melody, like a like extra stuff. It wasn't just following the guitar. So for that reason, for this case, I'm not really gonna use the guitar. I'm gonna keep it to its essentials. Just a quick break from this video. If you're an aspiring artist trying to get your music on Spotify, Apple Music, you name it, consider clicking the first link in the description because it's gonna give you 7% off of DistroKid. You've probably heard of DistroKid. It's, in my opinion, the best distribution site to distribute your music on all platforms. I use it. It works very well. It's only $20 a year, so 7% off that, I mean, it's a no-brainer. But anyway, first link in the description. I'd highly recommend. It supports the channel, so yeah, just go at it. Let's go. But yeah, you basically have the beat now. It's time now to focus on the vocals, which are very important. And for this, I really only added like 4 different things, which make it sound crucial. So I'm actually going to switch between my normal microphone and like my FL Studio microphone. So the first thing I added was Fruity Compressor, and I chose the vintage mix because a lot of her stuff has like a sort of vintage aesthetic, not like a full-blown vintage aesthetic, but there's like a lot of similarities to it to a degree. And what that basically is, it's the threshold at negative 20 dB decibels. I gotta say decibels, bro. The ratio is at 6.6 to 1. The gain is at 9 decibel. The type is, well, vintage. Release at 438 milliseconds, and the attack at 15 milliseconds. And that is basically why it sounds like this. Comparing it to without it, difference is pretty clear in my opinion. It makes it sound a little punchier. Then this is where we're gonna add this, which might confuse some people, but in my opinion, Clairo has a very lo-fi aesthetic. That's why the beats are very simple, and even her vocals, you can hear in like Flaming Hot Cheetos or Pretty Girl, for instance. She almost has like a high pass filter on a lot of her vocals, which make it sound kind of like an old telephone to a degree. So that's why I have it like this. The main thing you want to focus on, because to be honest, I would honestly, this isn't really essential. This is just kind of there to emphasize it a little bit. But the main thing you want to focus on is removing the bass in your vocals using the EQ. So how do you do that? First, you'd obviously be in default, and you would go to whichever of these you want. I just click the first one. You go type and then high pass, and then order steep 8 and push it to wherever you think it sounds best. I'm just gonna test it out a bit. I think around C4, like in the low mids, is where it sounds best. It has a very telephone-esque sound. I mean, you can literally do that with radio, but I think this sounds way too much. She doesn't have it that much. So again, high pass, order, steep 8, around low mids. Just taking away all the bass. In order to sort of recompensate for that, I added a Soundgoodizer, which sort of recompensates it by making it sound a little punchier, a little crispier. And I have it at about this much, like almost at 50%. I'd say this is like a 40, using the mode A. And the final thing I added was very slight reverb. So it sounds like this basically. I only have it, the mix level at like 49-50%. And the reason why is I feel like it wouldn't make sense to have a lot of reverb on her voice with everything else being so dry. So what I added, the wet level at 50%, early reflection 50%, dry level at 100, and everything else I left the same as it was when you click default. That's basically how it is. And for the recording, I mean, over here I did it because I was like rushing. I didn't do it properly, because the way I would recommend doing this is to have like a separate track where it's only for recording, so you can record your raw vocals and then drag it into your effects channel, because or else you're not going to be able to tweak any of the effects later on. Maybe you want to remove a bit of that EQ effect. You think it sounds too telephone like. Well, if you record with the effects, you won't be able to change anything, and well, sucks to suck. But basically after that, I sort of did like some double recordings, just add like some harmonies and stuff like that. But once you're done, the final product sounds like this.
Just
guys, this has been the video for today. If you've enjoyed the song that I've been playing in the background and etc., click the link in the description because it's on Spotify, it's on Apple Music, it's on whatever. It sounds infinitely better than the version being made here. And yeah, I think if you guys like Clairo, I think you're gonna enjoy it. But hopefully this tutorial has been useful for you, and if it has and you want more tutorials like this, why not subscribe and hit the bell for more tutorials like this, because I do indie, I do rap, R&B, you name it, on a bunch of different DAWs. I mean, FL Studio, GarageBand, even Audacity. So what are you waiting for? Let's just fucking do it. This has been your boy. Life's been great. Thank you guys for all the support. I need to remind you guys, these guys are awesome, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.